Nice to see that there are somebody's interested in this topic as well. Maybe I feel relaxed that it's not full crowded, so let's take it from there. A little bit short about PMC. We are mainly in the hydraulic business, but PMC stands for Power Motion Control, so there is other applications as well involved. A little bit what we do is that we have different legs we stand on in our business. We have a distribution of components, hydraulic components, where we buy them basically globally, warehouse them and distribute them also pretty much globally, but to a lot of OEM customers. We also have our own engineering where we can take a functional specifications, design a hydraulic system, and build it, deliver it, and we can also do commissioning on them. We have also a third leg that we are really working on, and that is to have some R&D and do some own solutions, patents, improvement in this conservative business as hydraulics. So that's very much us. We were standing for a decision where we wanted to be more cost effective and competitive in our supply chain. We got a new owner a couple of years ago, and they really wanted us to think and challenge ourselves, what can we do? I was sitting in the management team and we were discussing, and we have a lot of ideas, and we knew pretty much what we want to do. That was pretty clear. But how to present that to the board and not just go up there, I have a gut feeling that this is what we should do. So we needed some facts. Some of the characteristics or measurements we were looking for, of course, cost. That was really the main target. We also saw that our suppliers changed their way in doing business with us. It came in a lot of other options like quantity-based discounts, etc., and that was very different from different suppliers. To be honest, we are not good in inventory optimization or performance. We have very long lead times from our suppliers, and on the customer side, they are demanding shorter and shorter lead times. So we are sitting a lot about the inventory, and we don't have any sophisticated tools right now, yet. We changed our ERP system a couple of years ago, and we are actually in the last phase of a rollout. So it was pretty interesting to listen to SKF about their master data challenges, because we are sitting exactly with the same thing. And lead time effects, as I mentioned, was one of the things. So our idea was, should we go for a central warehouse? We have our operations mainly in the Nordics, but we have Poland, China, and India as well. So for us, it was pretty clear that we want to go for a central warehouse, but how to dig out facts and show that to the board. But a couple of questions. Where should it be located? And if we do that, what is the expected effects out from that? So this was the setup we had. We are a small company, but we have a lot of assembly sites. We have a lot of warehouses. So it was very, very clear. We are not anyway optimized in this way, and we can do a lot. The basic idea about the central warehouse and the setup and the thoughts we had, this is actually a working slide we had during very early in the beginning of the project, where we just brainstormed a little bit, how should it look, how can it be? And so for us, we have a few assembly sites. We were discussing to maybe have a few ones as well, but in the project, we were really focusing on the central warehouse. And all inventories or all components might not need to go to the central warehouse. They could also go to the assembly sites directly. Yeah, so that was basically the idea around this. So when we then start discuss what kind of scenarios could there be, and it's actually here where we brought in a couple of consultants where we brainstormed and discussed this, among those Optilon with Emma and Jens. So one of the scenarios was that we should have existing warehouse in each country because we wanted to also evaluate that part. But we could also optimize our way to behave in the purchasing and inventory optimizations. If we go for a second one, if we have a centralized warehouse, where should it be? Or if we do that, do we also require some smaller hubs for being fast with deliveries to a few of our customers? And when we do the centralization, where should it be? And I had at least my view at where it should be, and I was pretty early saying that it should be there, period. But I just needed the facts about it. So Poland was the thing I promoted very much. We have a new operation site there, consuming a lot of items we have, and the cost side is totally different than we have in the Nordics. So that was really what I thought we're going to end up with. So a little bit about the selection process. We are meeting a few of the consultant companies. We wanted also to dig out a lot of facts, and as I said, we just had changed our ERP system. We didn't do the proper work with master data, so we had a lot of things that gave us uncertainties. And our board was really pressing us. We need to do this, and we needed to do it fast. So it was really, really quick decision, and we were in tight contact with the board, and internally we also put resources to work with this very, very fast. What we looked for is some companies who have some kind of experience from this kind of projects, but also have some kind of software or processes to really do the analysis, because we are working in Excel, to be honest. We didn't want a one-man show, a small consultant company, because there's a lot of them also try to be in this kind of projects. And from our side, we were doing so many changes that we don't have too many resources to put in that. So we put up 4 people, if I recall right. Really, this is your focus, do this, we have this time limit. And of course, we needed to feel that it's the right partner to work with. With that time plan, very tight, we put a couple of milestones, dates where we need to have the deliverables. That was more or less controlled by when was the board meetings, so we could present that for them. We put together a project team, worked very closely among Emma and Philip, and had a lot of Skype meetings, met a couple of times. We also looked at the ERP system, what can that give us? So we have quick access direct to the data, and then we needed to clean something and do a lot of adaptations there as well. And of course, since we couldn't get it 100% correct, we needed to do some assumptions where, okay, what's the lead time from there to there, because it was so changeable and we didn't have correct data. So we did that. And then we have a lot of follow-up meetings, and is this really true? We got a lot of questions back, which was good. A couple of the data what we looked at was really the cost. What is the cost for different things? We also went out to our transport companies, checked the prices, are they correct, what's the lead times, etc. We went through transactions directly from the ERP system. But we had also the challenge as SKF had. We had different ERP systems. We're still running, especially in Denmark, with a total different system, and we need to work with the data to get it in the same format.
Yes. So when we met and started our project together, We defined it like this in 2 steps. As Terho mentioned, it was one of the most critical things to get something out there really quick. So we did a step 1 where we looked at the cost and the cost effect of changing the network. We focused on effect on the warehouses in terms of handling and rental cost and so on, collected that information. We did a general estimate on capital cost based on inventory turns. And we also looked into the different transportation setup, both inbound, internal transport, and distribution. From this, we got a first step result that we presented to the board. To create this model, and to find out these results, we used a supply chain guru model. We looked at point of gravity for the demand, which was one of the questions as well, to say, well, where should we be placed optimally from a cost perspective if we are centralizing to one warehouse, but also where do we find the demand and how will it affect our lead times in the end to reach them. So we put up different scenarios, one of them being place a central warehouse at the point of gravity of the demand. Another one being you can pick any of these different candidates that we have, but you can only have one central warehouse location. And we optimized in Supply Chain Guru, where do we find the lowest cost? At this stage, we also introduced and included a sensitivity analysis based on a future forecast for 2019, because we saw that the demand is also moving from where we are today until where we will be in 4, 5, not even that.
No, not even that.
3 years maybe from the data that we looked at on historical demand, which is of course one of the key things to take into consideration when investing in a future setup. We put together a material per scenario where we visualized, like on the map here to the left, what are the flows today when using our 7 different warehouses? How do we distribute to the different customers? And what is the total cost of that? What is the cost of purchase, warehouse, inventory, transportation, and so on? So we had a solid baseline, or as is, to compare our different alternatives of how we could change things. Then per scenario, summarized how are these different cost components changing? What cost components can we affect here? And we saw that by placing, for example, as we had the first scenario here, the one central warehouse in Tampere in Finland, that would reach our point of gravity for the demand. We didn't say that it would necessarily be the most cost-efficient way of having one central warehouse, but that would be where we were closest to the customers, and with that we had an assumption that we also would reach the shortest lead time. At this point, though, we hadn't looked into the actual lead times. That was part of step 2 later on. In general, what we could see, and we also saw that when looking at the scenario of having the lowest possible cost in the network, but with one central warehouse, is that we would increase the distance to the customers. That was a fact. Of course, it's easier with 7 local warehouses to be close to the market. But being close to the market, you also need to have the availability from stock at those locations. So this kind of analysis was done in step 1, giving the board a first draft before Christmas last year. So we did that in about a month, something like that. Then we went back in a step 2 to build on what we already had created, also looking more into detail on the purchase cost effect, where we didn't really know what would be the actual benefit of centralizing our purchasing. Can we know how much more discounts we can get if we order in bigger lot sizes, or have one person accountable for all the purchasing instead of having it locally spread? So we went back into that question since it required some more investigation, together with the lead time effect of doing this change to the network. I've blurred out in this picture the number, so I will try to explain to you instead what we did when looking into the purchasing cost effect. Because here we thought that we had a big potential to reduce the purchasing cost by centralizing that. But what we saw when we looked at what is the total purchase value per country, and how much of that purchasing value is from products that are shared between markets, we saw that that overlap was actually quite small. So most of the products was already today just sourced from one warehouse, because we were only using it for one market. So when analyzing it and looking at, so let's say that we could get the best purchase price any of our markets gets today from all markets instead, for the total volume. Where would we end up then, and how big would the potential be to reduce the purchasing cost? We saw that unfortunately, that might not be the trigger for this change, even though, of course, it had a positive impact. We also looked more in detail into the inventory levels and analyzed a given service level that was reached today, a certain availability. As Terho also mentioned before, that this was not one of the things where you had the best service today. So we had a fairly low service level today, and a given cost at our 7 warehouses to keep those levels. We used another tool, SO99, then to calculate how much could we potentially reduce the stock levels in these 7 locations together without changing anything in the network first, to see, based on where we are today, can we remix the stock levels to have a more optimal setup and still reach the same service level? And we saw that there we actually had quite a big potential. Going back to the change in network though, this was also connected to that we didn't have much of an overlap between the countries in the assortment. We saw that even though we would go from 7 warehouses today to 1 central warehouse, the potential of reducing stock further was quite small. So both of these aspects was quite interesting for the analysis because it's covering two different dimensions that we thought in the beginning would be the breaking points here. In the end, what we focused the most on from our step 2 analysis was actually the lead time to customer. Because we saw that that was the biggest change between going from a local setup where all customers could be sourced within a few days from the local warehouses. You see in the list here on the map to the left, you have today's setup of customers and how many days they get served within. So we have 1 day lead time in light green, 2 days lead time in a bit darker green, and you see the Nordics are all covered within that. When we do the change and suggest one distribution center in Tampere instead, which was the single closest location to the demand, we are still getting a much longer lead time for many of the customers. So Finland was served as today, but as you see for Sweden there, and Denmark as well, we're going to from 1-2 days to 3-4 days instead of distribution lead time. We also see that in the list below, which is it's also blurred out the customer names, but here we've listed from top the biggest customers to see how much are we affecting our biggest accounts and maybe the most important customers. And it's quite easy to see there as well that most of those customers are served within 2 days with the current setup, and that would change with a central setup. This was just one of 4 or 5 scenarios that we presented. So we continue this list, but comparing, so where should we place this one central warehouse if we go for that? What effect does it have on cost? What is most cost efficient? And what is also best from a lead time perspective? And we saw that there will always be a trade-off between those two. That was pretty clear. We also did hybrid alternatives of combining. What if we reduce from the 7 warehouses we have today to maybe 4 and so on, and see how much we are then affecting the service side. I'm gonna let you sum up then what we...
Yes. What is the conclusions then? One thing what surprised us was we are in a hydraulic business, and we thought from the management without real facts that we have a lot of overlapped items. When we did our ERP project, we started with 250,000 items. Compare that with SKF of 500,000, and we are a small company compared to them, I can tell you. We, of course, reduced that. I think we are a little bit less than 100,000 today. So we have a lot of items, good or bad, that's a question. Compared with IKEA, I think they said 906 suppliers. We have 1,000. So it's a challenge. So the overlapping was definitely not an issue here, or it was an issue from that perspective. We didn't get the effect centralizing as we thought. Point of gravity was also pretty interesting. I thought that Sweden definitely somehow centralized in the Nordics close to Poland could be an option. But we saw that Sweden and Finland was actually a little bit better from that analysis. So it was very equal there. But we concluded that it will also reduce our customer service. So we were a little bit afraid of going centralizing due to that. And I need to say that I was right in my assumption that Poland will be cheapest. But what effects will that be? And really, we concluded that the customer service was so important for us because basically it can be a customer calling our CEO if it's one delivery late to our big OEMs. So we thought, no, we don't go that path right now. We make one warehouse per country and work with that instead. So that was a really interesting journey to do with the softwares that you support us and challenging us with questions and analyzing and came up with facts. And that helped us a lot in the presentation against the board. Why should we go for a more expensive solution than the cheapest one? And so from that perspective, it was really, really helpful, and we can always go back and lean on this analysis for now at least. Lessons learned. As I said, to have quantitative data helping your decision making, really, really important. Also, when you bring in a team with a lot of people with a lot of knowledge, how you can also challenge yourself, where you are very strong in your opinion, but there is coming people asking questions to you. Okay, I might be wrong there, or I start to be a little bit vague at least. So a lot of other options came up. And I think out from this, we also get a pretty clear picture where we need to work on, where should we start. And I think I heard that actually today. Start to simplify, then optimize. So right now we are in the simplifying phase, reducing the warehouses, reducing the assembly sites, maybe looking into inventory, what should we have in inventory, what should we not have, and start from there and maybe look at the optimizing phase. Yep, that was the presentation.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for sharing that journey. It's also interesting to get sort of two perspectives. We had SKF who really, they've done a lot of work, but they're a big company, and then compare it to a smaller company like yours. And I was thinking, because I know with SKF we talked a lot about, which you mentioned as well, like mindsets, new skill sets. So how do you work with actually, distilling this mindset of transformation with the work that you're doing?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because it's really a lot in that. We have started to say that culture eats strategy as breakfast.
Yep.
So we are really working and have a lot of these meetings with people, stakeholders, trying to explain why. We are inviting people to our new site in Poland, spend a lot of time doing that to get the commitment, understanding, and I think we are just in the beginning of a journey. A few people decided to leave us. They didn't like the ideas. The ones we have now, I feel it's really into the right mood, most of them at least.
Well, that's good to know. So in order to endorse this in a company, it's the communication and really getting the mindset. And then also probably the people who do stay, it's converting a new skill set, I presume.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, one question. I know that you are now in the transition phase. Is it on? Yeah. Terho, I know that you did this investigation, and now you are in actually the transition phase of making this happen.
Yes.
If you look, I mean, there was quite a journey to make the analysis, and now you're in the transition phase. What is the hardest parts for you right now to make this happen in reality?
Yeah, good question. It's a lot of things. I shouldn't be here. Man hours, really the work to get people to understand what to do, because it's a total different thing they should work on now. A lot of production transfers, a lot of new mindset, meeting up with customers to get all on board to send the same message. So both internal communication, external communication, but also to get the work done. And as we are a small company, it's limited of resources, and basically we are tumbling around the whole company right now. So it is challenging to get the resources. It's mainly that's a challenge.
And also another question. You said for you it was kind of a surprise, the outcome. It was not directly in according to your expectations. What about the board itself? Did they had another vision and another idea before you presented this? And was it difficult for you to get them on board into this new
I
approach?
think they challenge us with questions and wanted a little bit more facts in detail. We started with a little bit overview of the findings, and we need to dig down a little bit and what their expectations was. I don't never heard that, but the cost was really, really important for them. So I think we get approved vision where we should go, and more like just go ahead.
Yeah.
So that was a really good ending of those decision-making meetings.
Great. Any more questions? Yes, one in the back.
Hi, Mika Koski from Valjosväri AB. Hi. It's good to see some Finnish companies here also. And I can see some similarities with our business also, even we are on the dairy business. Yeah. My question for you, because our business or our customers' requests go to upside down, and for your businesses, that they asking all the time the shorter and shorter lead times. We are already on the 48 hours. They are asking 24 hours deliveries. What was your customers' react when you first time told them that, hey, lead times will be longer? And another question for you, when you go to the centralized warehousing and the deliveries from Tampere, did it affect them somehow, your service levels or wastes compared to old time?
It's a lot of questions in the same one. Well, we communicated to the customers we will move our what we call the system assembly to Poland. That's a long lead time to deliver those projects. They will not be affected. It's the lead time where we supply a spare part or aftermarket services. That's the critical one. And that's one part where we decided that we should have a local warehouse in Finland, in Tampere area, where we have our point of gravity very strong. We will have also some small assembly there, what we can do with less people. I can see definitely different cultures among our customers who is mature to think about these changes as well. And Finland is a little bit ahead of the schedule of Sweden and Denmark and so on. So we went through a lot of customer meetings. The biggest one, we started with the biggest and went through, and I can tell you a few customers told, if you deliver from Poland, we don't stop doing business with you. That was a message a couple of times. So we went back to our management team and also to the board. We have these risks. What should we do? It's a risk. Let's go. I can tell you all customers have came back with orders. No one stopped. So it's a mindset taking time from our customers as well to understand. For us, it was for us to be competitive to you, we need to do this. Did that answer your question?
So you've challenged both internally and externally, in a sense, when it comes to shifting the mindset. Any more questions? Yep.
It seems to me that you could go into this process with different mindsets. One, you seem to have chosen a rather radical hypothesis that you can go from quite a lot of warehouses to one central warehouse. Another option would to say, let's find the most optimum solution. It could be 2 warehouses, 4, 6, we don't know. Did you have any discussions if you wanted to look into a lot of scenarios and try to find optimum, or were you sort of going straight into that radical one?
Yeah, well, of course we discussed that, and I can tell you that we have been in this transition throughout a few years. We have built up our factory in Poland, we have one in China, one in India, so we have done a lot of things. We got a new owner, a total different mindset. They want probably some return on investment as soon as possible. And we changed our total organization, how we work. We was very country-based with MDs and protecting their P&Ls, etc. We took away that and put really process owners over the different functions instead. And that speeded up all the decision making. And when we did all that, I think we also get more radical to the whole thing, because we need to deliver.
Thank you.
Interesting. Any more questions? No. Well, thank you very much for sharing your story, and the best of luck going forward. Round
Thank
of
you very much.
applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
And some gifts.